Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. Una po, paglalagom, maliit na summary ng ating tatlong pagbasa. In the first reading from the book of Exodus, we heard the story about the flaming bush. And essentially, the flaming bush was a sign par excellence of God's visitation. And Moses heard a call, and that call necessitated an answer. And Moses did not think twice. Here I am. And that occasioned a revelation. It was on the occasion of a call that was responded to, answered dutifully by somebody who saw the sign. It occasioned the revelation, the great revelation of who God is. I am who I am. Ako ang si ako nga. In the second reading, we are told and reminded by St. Paul that the call is not a guarantee. We may receive calls every day, but we may drink of the same drink and eat the same food and pass under the same cloud by day and fire by night, the sign par excellence of the presence of God. While they were marching through the desert, the response was varied, but the response was absolutely needed. And there were those who responded positively and those who did not notice anything. In the Gospel, we are presented with the figure of a barren fig tree. A fig tree is very fertile. It brings a lot of fruit, at least in the countries where they grow. But the owner of the vineyard or the land was expecting to harvest fig trees, or rather figs, the fruits of the fig tree, and saw nothing. There was no response, no fruits. So, what do we make of this? A few lessons for us to pick. Number one, we are experiencing the phenomenon every day of three items. We have a caller, we have a call, and we are the called. Tayo ang merong tagatawag, merong panawagan, at merong mga tinatawagan. Ang tagatawag ay ang Panginoon, ang panawagan ay kaligtasan, ang tinatawagan ay mga taong pwedeng tulad ng mga Israelita nung araw ay walang pansin, wapakels, walang pakialam. Number two lesson, the caller, God, is not some random guy. Hindi lang siya napadaan sa SM makabili nga. Hindi siya napadaan, ay may tao pala dito, magpipreach ako ngayon. The caller is God who calls us to salvation, and whose call has been the same since time immemorial. I am who I am. Number three lesson, Moses, in the first reading, heard the caller. Moses also listened to the call. And Moses responded as one who is called. Hindi niya sinabing sino. Ako ba? He knew and heard the voice of God. And he didn't say, who? Me? He said, here I am. Number four lesson. The Corinthians are just like you and me. All passed under the cloud. All were baptized into Moses. All drank the same water. All ate the same food. But not all responded. Those who responded were called to life, and those who did not respond merited what they, ang tawag ngayon ng mga batang Pinoy, deserve. Mirisi sa mga Bisaya, merete. Not all responded, And the fifth lesson from the gospel, there were the Galileans who died, who perished. Wapakil sila. The people who died by the pool of Siloam, the Lord was not talking about tragedy that will befall all those who don't obey, but He talks about the wages of sin, which is death. And then the famous fig fruits that were non-existent. So, the reality that we are facing right now, we have a call, and we are the called, and we have a caller and a call, and the called, and that is you and I. The reality is that we listen more to trolls. Lumalabas ang katotohanan ngayon, yung mga vloggers, binabayaran pala ng China. Pinapunta sa China, kaya pala ang daming fake news. And this is the reality right now. The young people that are not going to Mass anymore, the few that are here, you listen more to TikTok than to the gospel. We listen more to social media than we do to God. We listen more to trolls than we do to the church who preaches truth, salvific truth. Number two, the reality that we are facing, we trust the Mariteses and the Marisols more than we trust Holy Mother Church. We subscribe to malinformation. And malinformation means two things: disinformation, misinformation. And the more controversial the misinformation or disinformation is, the more it engages, the more hits, the more likes, and the more followings. Kaya pala ang daming follower nung tatlo na pinag-aral ng mga. We subscribe to malinformation, and we are all like the fig tree. We don't bear fruit. We are in for a whole lot of nerve-wracking, consciousness-raising, reality check every Sunday that we come to Mass. And we are all in it together, including me. Because the reality is that when we go to our watch the TV, well, somebody destroyed ABS-CBN, so we cannot watch it anymore. And we are now finding out why. We are realizing that not all those who call on the Lord as Lord really is godly. We are realizing that not all those who claim to do public service are there to do public service, but to ensure that his wife, his son, his daughter becomes also congressman and mayor and vice mayor. There are several cities in the country where the mayor is the same family name. The vice mayor is the wife, the one running, and the councilor is also a member of the same family. And we listen more to them than we listen to the voice of reason. One thing that as an educator over the past 48 years that I am deploring is the reality called cognitive dissonance. They know that killing people is bad. They know it cognitively, but they still hold on to their fanatic Lord. There is dissonance. Kaya tinatawag na cognitive dissonance. There is a gap between the mind and the heart. There is a gap between the proclamation, prophetic proclamation, and the prophetic denunciation. There is a gap, a knowing gap inside of us. There is this unity of mind and heart. So are we surprised that we are sorely divided? 51% in favor and 49% not in favor of anything. We are divided right smack in the middle, and we forgot that life, human life, is not a relative value. It is an absolute value. But yet, even if we know that human life is an absolute good, We are willing to obey our fanatic lords, and this is the cognitive dissonance, and this is what is immoral. We prefer to listen to trolls and to bots and to false narratives and to fake news, rather than hold on to the absolute good that is non-negotiable, that human life is sacred, right from the very beginning all the way from womb to tomb, from the beginning all the way up to the end. We are convicted this morning, all of us, starting from me, but sometimes, since we are in the year of hope, Holy Year, we are all pilgrims of hope, sometimes I receive this question, so Father, are you hopeless? No. If I were hopeless, I won't be saying Mass anymore. If I were hopeless, I won't be teaching anymore. And I just gave a 4-hour lecture yesterday to people who were recipient to the truth. They did not argue with me. They did not ask me, why are you so worried about the war in Ukraine? Like some of my students ask me, hello, I'm teaching social theology. And any war, if you're not worried about the war going on in Gaza and in Ukraine, and if you're worried sick about the fact that when Ukraine falls, the next one will be Taiwan, and nearest us, nearest Taiwan is the Philippines. They control Vietnam already, Laos and Cambodia. We are in for a lot of potential problems. And when there is God, when we deny God and declare that there is no God, God doesn't disappear. Those who claim that there is no God, they become gods. And they declare their will on other people. They behave like gods. And so the phenomenon that seems to be going on right now, the 3 world powers are carving out the rest of the world. America wants Greenland, Panama, and Canada, and Putin wants all of the former Soviet Empire. And that country northwest of us, no need to ask me. You know very well what is going on. We are in for trouble. But then the question is, should we remain depressed and hopeless? No. Because we have you, we have one another. For as long as there are people who keep on coming back to Mass and celebrating the Eucharist and calling on God, the Lord of history, then you have a prophetic proclamation to share to every one of your neighbors in your street. After hearing my prophetic denunciation, and what is our prophetic proclamation that we hold on to for dear life and with hope and courage? The Lord is kind and merciful.